The
Excellent.
stage is all yours.
Appreciate it. All right, folks, thanks for joining us today for this is our second Fireside Friday AMA. We've got Christian from Anchain with us today, and my co-host, as always, is Gary from Gauss. We've also got Alex here helping run the board and making sure this is all produced to perfection. The format for the show is to kind of briefly discuss the world of Web3 and kind of dive into what our guests are up to, what we're up to, and what our partnership looks like and means for one another, as well as answering questions from the audience and maybe some random off-topic questions just to keep things fun and light. So with that, I will briefly introduce Christian. Just go ahead and say hello to folks and a little bit about your role at Anchain, and then we'll kind of dive more into details as we go. That's you, Christian. You're live.
Oh, amazing. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. And I thank everyone for allowing me the opportunity to be a guest here.
Well, I know
Awesome.
You have a long list of experience. You want to give an intro before we
definitely. Yeah. So I'm currently the head of partnership at Anchain.AI. We're a Web3 security and risk management company. A little bit about myself for the last 7 years. Coincidentally, and I've been in both the blockchain and the AI space. Sort of the work that I've done has sort of involved both of those aspects. Started in private equity, specifically investing in AI-based companies or into builders that were leveraging algorithms or AI solutions to increase efficiencies in today's world. I also had the opportunity to dive deeper into Bitcoin mining due to the fact that there was an algorithm involved, right? So SHA-256, that's actually where I first came across Bitcoin through the mining sector. And then for the last 7 years, I've been working in this space ever since. And, some interesting things that I've done has been working under the innovation lab at Salesforce. Essentially, my role there was to convince the C-suite and the lab itself that blockchain technology was going to be a pillar technology by the year 2030. Everything that I was doing was around Salesforce's 10-year roadmap. And essentially, I was investigating blockchain-based solutions and how that would intersect with 5G, IoT, AI, robotics, drones, etc. And then, worked through different sort of private companies since. The last one was working with a company that was valued at $5.8 billion, if I'm not mistaken on the actual number there. But essentially, it was an enterprise automation and integration company by the name of Workato. And my role there was being part of the growth team, but then also sort of leading initiatives around developing a go-to-market strategy specifically to enter the Web3 space. How can we sort of automate and integrate Web3-based products and processes?
Okay, awesome. Thank you for all that. And we are going to dive into Anchain.AI's focus in a little bit, but I kind of want to start at a global level. I understand that you've done some work with the SEC. I know that most folks in this space have sort of mixed feelings about the SEC and their effectiveness in this space right now. And I just kind of want to kind of get a reading where you think this space is at in its evolution. What are some of the pluses, minuses? What are some of the things that bode well? What are some of the hurdles? It's kind of just start at a global level of, where's the space right now?
Yeah, so I think, well, first and foremost, right, definitely bullish in the space, right? It's the reason why I've dedicated the last 7 years in building and working on it and in it. So I think where the space is today is still this like uncertainty around regulations, right? How can we properly set up rules and laws that are going to allow for the industry to flourish and for innovation to thrive? I think one of the biggest sort of problems in this space is that the bad actors are louder than the good actors. And, we saw it in the last sort of 12 months, if not like 12 to 14 months, with the fall of Celsius, Voyager, FTX, and how that created sort of a ripple effect across the whole industry, right? The industry lost a lot of trust within the end consumers, such as like retail investors. And I think a lot of where we're at today is how can we prevent that from happening again? And how can we sort of like set up the right rules and structures to make sure that it doesn't happen again, and to make sure that moving forward, we can set up the right sort of rules and laws in place to allow for more entrepreneurs to enter the space and for retailers to feel a lot safer, and have that more like that peace of mind of like, my assets are safe, right? I think that's sort of like the biggest thing today, and that's exactly what Anchain is building solutions for.
Excellent. Okay. So then, let's talk a little bit more about those solutions specifically.
Yep, definitely. So what we have is a set of different solutions, right? So we have the security side of things, and then we also have the risk management side of the business. For the security side, or actually, let's start with the risk management, since we'll finish off with the security side, and then we can talk about the partnership that we have today with Gauss. So on the risk management side, what we have built is real-time transaction monitoring. So an API for real-time transaction monitoring for businesses. Essentially, what this tool does, it screens wallets that are signing into protocols. So what it does is that our API will essentially screen that address across our data set, and give the wallet either a label or a risk score, right? These labels are specifically suspicious illicit-based labels, such as, has this wallet been in a government database due to sanctions, or due to illicit activity, such as being involved in a scam, being involved in a hack, or any other sort of like illicit activity-based actions. And then we also give it a risk score based of how risky is this wallet. From 0 to 100, 100 being like this wallet is very risky. It's essentially prompting the business to act accordingly, right? And that's sort of like up to the business of how they wish to act.
Okay, interesting. That's very cool. So that's on the security side?
That's more on the risk management side, essentially.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Yep, I like to say that it's sort of like security cameras in the physical world, but here we're bringing them on chain. That way, security teams can sort of understand who's entering into the ecosystem, who's entering into the store, for a lack of a better word.
I was going to ask you to put it in plain English, and that was perfect. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Excellent. And then, so I know you've got a handful of clients, but I think it's pretty remarkable that you've managed to secure the SEC as a client. How much can you talk about the work that you're doing with them?
So I can only talk on what's publicly available. There is a Forbes article out there that discusses sort of like our partnership. A lot of it is bringing up to speed regulators and government officials on what is blockchain, how to properly investigate the blockchain when things do go bad. I believe this week, it's slipping my mind the name of the case, but the hackers that hacked Bitfinex for like $4.5 billion, right? They finally pled guilty to the case. so in situations like that, right, when big sort of hacking events happen, that can be extremely detrimental into the industry that we're trying to build here. For example, the Curve Finance hack, right? How can we sort of get in front of it, get in front of the perpetrators, and try to recover those funds for these ecosystems, right? Before it creates sort of a cascading effect across, like, let's say, for example, the whole DeFi landscape, right? And then similar to, like, the CeFi issue, right? Consumers start to lose trust, right? And the main reason why they start to lose trust is because this is still an extremely technical product, right? Tokenomics, smart contracts, non-custodial wallets, like, you name it, right? It just keeps getting more technical as we continue to develop it. So how do we sort of like train government officials on what's actually happening? Like, how does this work? Right. So that's sort of like a lot of the work that we're doing today.
Okay, cool. Who are some other clients that you're working with that we may have heard of or that we should know about?
Yeah, so we're many of our sort of client / partners list is L1 protocols, right? So we're working across the whole sort of like, I guess, blockchain landscape and making sure that all of these ecosystems do have these tools in place, right? Such as, again, know your KYT, KYW, know your transaction, know your wallet, which is essentially what the API does. Is it sort of starts like labeling wallets within ecosystems that are known to be bad actors, right? And if we can sort of like pinpoint to those wallets and pinpoint to their sort of transactions and interactions with other wallets, then we can sort of start to bring more transparency and intelligence to the ecosystem of, like, hey, beware of these wallets, right? Like, they're known to do shady stuff, or like they're known to try to find vulnerabilities within smart contracts to extract funds, right? And a lot of the times, the businesses that are being affected that aren't being talked about are your sort of, what I like to call, like, your mom and pop shops on the blockchain, such as like really small early developers that they don't come with security first principles in mind when developing sort of like their contracts. They're thinking more around, how can I market it? How can I take it to how can I take it to market? How can I scale it? How can I get more users? And the last thing that they're looking into it are like smart contract audits or tools such as the ones that we provide, simply because it's just not part of their roadmap. And when it comes to security, like, I feel like people buy security-based products, like in the physical world or in the virtual world, after an event happens, right? Once it's too late. That's when you get like insurance. That's when you buy sort of like a lock on your door after your door has been broken in, right? So, yeah, those are sort of like the biggest players today in the space that we're working with.
Gotcha. Okay. And then what's the AI tie-in?
Yep. So, so both of our founders are they have an engineering background, right? And at the core of like since Anchain's inception, it was to build sort of like an AI-based solution for Web3. So a lot of our products have built-in patented algorithms that allow for efficiency just across what it is that we're doing. For example, when it comes to like giving risk scores to wallets, so there's the obvious ones, such as like wallets that are like on the sanctions list, and then there's the not so obvious ones, such as the second degree, third degree wallets that are interacting with those sanctioned wallets, right? So we're using like proprietary AI algorithms to sort of start building risk scores into those second, third degree connections from known bad actors, right? Which is essentially like, how can we identify like the movement of like the laundering activity that happens after a hack? Which is sort of like a thing in the space, right? Like, once they hack and they start moving funds around, they start sort of like sending them to DeFi protocols, aggregators, bots, using sort of bridges to start to sort of like hide like the trace, right? Because everything on the blockchain is completely transparent, so we can continue, like we can see exactly where funds are moving. So we're using AI to like expedite the findings.
Gotcha. That's cool. Okay, this next question may totally reveal my ignorance in this space, but I heard you talk about a laundering event. And if memory serves, at least with the US dollar, the printed dollar, the Secret Service is the government agency tasked with fighting counterfeits, laundering, all that kind of stuff. You fill out a report at a bank for somebody making suspicious deposits, that goes to the Secret Service. Do they have anything to do with this space at all?
I don't think so. Most things on chain aren't viewed as, and I know you're asking Christian, I want to hear his answer too, but everything everywhere in the world right now is not viewed as currency or currency equivalent, given the current regulations and everything. They might have involvement with the fiat off-ramp laundering side, like they may be involved, but there's other agencies that would handle that too. So yeah, now I'm curious what you say, Christian.
Yeah, definitely. So just for reference, right? We have a global reach today. So there are sort of other nation states that consider sort of like cryptocurrency as legal tenders, right? So we are working in sort of that space, right? Of like, even on the enterprise side of things, like the financial institutions that are filing for like Bitcoin ETFs or happen to have like tokens or cryptocurrencies in their balance sheet, right? So we do work with the AML departments, right? Anti-money laundering departments, similar to that of the traditional financial world, that is making sure that we're keeping sort of law and order in place in terms of making sure that money is clean, that funds aren't coming from traditional crime too, right? Human trafficking, or we're starting to see a lot of this actually in the space where it's not a black and white world where like cybercrime is completely different from from the real world crime that happens in our physical lives, right? We're starting to see this transition of both of those worlds merging, where bad actors are using sort of cryptocurrencies to facilitate their trades, right? So that is where we're working in this space, and making sure that, again, how can we move everything that is right from the traditional finance world? How can we bring all of those appropriate rules and laws and regulations that are in space that allow sort of capitalism to flourish? How can we bring that sort of those ideologies, those same principles into the blockchain space? Because the faster that we can do that, the faster that we can sort of even emphasize a lot more on the ideology of this is the future of finance, right? But in order to do that, we have to continue to draw those similarities and bring those same sort of structures when it comes to weaving out illicit activities from these institutions or from this ecosystem.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. I've been making you talk for quite some time. I'm gonna let you catch your breath for a minute and turn to Gary and ask, how did we meet Anchain.AI?
I know it was LinkedIn, right, Christian? He said he's handing it off to me, and now I'm asking you. I'm pretty sure it was LinkedIn. I'm going back now.
It may have been. Yeah, I use LinkedIn pretty regularly.
Oh, yeah. So there was somebody else we were speaking with before Christian who ended up leaving Anchain. So there was a lull of the conversation while we were trying to find a new connection there. Then somehow I got connected with PJ Way, and I think it was he who suggested that I hit you up on the team. And then, which PJ is one of their advisors. He's a fellow Marine vet. But then Christian and I started talking, and he got up to speed really quick. We were able to move along the conversation really rapidly with him, as rapidly as can go in these things, because it still takes months to go back and forth with agreements. But that's where it got started. It took me a minute because I'm going back through LinkedIn and trying to remember, but that's where it was.
And then what was it about Anchain.AI that made it attractive, or made it look like there was a good fit?
For Gauss, I mean, we want a number of different partners and affiliates that can handle different things. And I think Anchain's focus and execution on the security tooling side of things, you want prevention, mitigation, you want multiple different steps, kind of what he was talking about when they were covering their products. You want to be able to predict when things might go wrong. You want to help prevent things that might go wrong. You want to mitigate disasters, all of those different things. And they really cover a lot of the different bases. Their client catalog is massive. They work with basically everyone that's top in this industry. There's not any real bad reasons to not, to steer us away from Anchain. Everything's guiding to work with them.
Gotcha. Okay. And Christian, same question for you. What was it about Gauss that made us a good fit?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I appreciate the accolade there, Gary. Sort of the Gauss Gang team and with Gary was sharing with.
And he rugged. He'll be back.
Man, Discord has been doing this more and more lately.
Oh, did you tell? Wait, I'll pause the recording.
Thank you so much. Christian, welcome back. Sorry about that.
No worries. I've been having issues with Discord all day. Don't know what it is.
We figured it out, and it's on us. And note for the future. So the question that we left you with was, what was it about Gauss that made us a good fit for you?
Yep. Just to fast forward on what I was saying there. Essentially any sort of like ecosystem, any sort of like entity that is hoping to create sort of a transparent, secure, and safe blockchain to facilitate trade, to build applications on. That is sort of like the team and the sort of like entity that we would love to work with and continue to sort of drive this space towards those sort of like ideologies.
Gotcha. Okay. Excellent. Well, I know that since we've penned a partnership agreement, Gary's been really excited about the form of the agreement that we struck. We're able to offer your services to any and every project that launches with us, which is remarkable. And I know he's not the only one that's excited about it, but he is the one who gets to talk about it the most. But Gary, why don't you just outline kind of the basics of our partnership and what that looks like for projects moving forward?
So a lot of these partnerships start out with something small, right? We built an affiliate referral kind of relationship to start, so we can work together in that way. Those are usually the easiest first steps with any of these. And then Christian and I both wanted to really explore things that we could do beyond that. And their different products that they offer, specifically Web3 SOC in this instance, We want to provide those to everyone launching on Gauss. I don't know that we'll be able to do that for the whole suite. We do have other conversations going about other parts of their tooling, but our goal with Gauss is really to set everyone up for success that launches in our ecosystem. Being that we're curated, that we're not worried about having 1,000 nonsensical, shit coins or whatever launching with us, we have that ability to give a more catered experience. So that's part of what we're doing. Another one of our partners that we haven't announced yet will likely end up making a deal with us to help collaborate and create our dashboard, which then will have things like Web3 SOC and whatnot integrated into it for the client side. So I'm really, really excited because that's part of our whole goal, right? I don't know that I've actually used the warehouse analogy during AMA or chat or anything yet, Mac. And
Let's go.
as many times as it's been used in, potential client calls and all those things. But Mac and I were speaking with one of our advisors. When I came up with this analogy, I usually try to speak to people where they're at, where their experiences are, or I brought it back to her later. I don't recall where it first came from. Anyway, Polygon, Ethereum, chains like that, for all their strengths, they're functionally an empty warehouse. You can throw an awesome rave there, but they're not, you don't have power. They're not entirely legal. You can't get permitted, things like that. Still fun. You can do plenty of things there. With Gauss, we're looking to build Radio City Music Hall. More legitimate, more infrastructure, so you have sound stage, lighting, security, staffing, all of those things, ready to build those experiences. And in that vein, Anchain's Web3 socks is one of those things.
Okay, gotcha.
There you go.
No, I think that helps. I mean, if you had answered me with jargon, I would have asked you to break it down for me. So
those words.
I always appreciate concrete examples that make it make sense for people like me. So then what's next for Anchain.AI, Christian?
Yeah, so the next thing that's, as Gary mentioned, right, regarding sort of like our Web3 SOC tool. So what our engineering team is currently building is bringing the Gauss Gang blockchain into this platform that we've built. Essentially what this platform does, just to provide some context there. So Web3 SOC stands for Web3 Security Operations Center. And what that tool essentially does is it allows you to set up triggers and alerts on different on-chain activity that happens at the smart contract level. For example, if we're looking at, let's say, an NFT project, we can sort of create specific alerts when transfers happen, when NFTs are sold, when they're bought, at the smart contract level, if anything happens in terms of like admin rules are changed, keys are changed, new code is added to the contract. These are all things that we can sort of like set up alerts and then notify the right individuals of like, hey, this alert just happened, right? Let's do something about it. The idea of this concept was that, well, currently there's no solution like this out in the Web3 space. And what we noticed is it usually takes an ecosystem about a week on average, based off of what we've seen, to identify that something happened to the smart contract. And then it usually takes about a month for the patching and the fixing to happen. In the traditional sort of security space, this wouldn't be acceptable, right? Sort of the detection time to vulnerabilities or events like this is usually around sort of a matter of 24 hours, right? In fact, a lot less, right? It can be like 5 to 8 hours. So during sort of like the big Axie Infinity hack, $700 million were stolen through a bridge hack. It took the founders a week to find out that, hey, they were hacked, right? So how can we prevent that from happening again across the whole ecosystem? And that's exactly what we built this tool, to serve that purpose. And we're excited to bring this to Gauss and to the ecosystem.
Gotcha. Wow. Okay. Yeah, and I know that. The tech side of the house over here has just been thrilled about this as an added benefit to our growing platform. I'm going to switch gears here a little bit because we've been really, elbow deep into the technical side and business side of things. Tell me what you like most about working with your team.
Yeah, so the biggest thing is we're all trying to solve this purpose of how can we bring more security based protocols or just security tools to this ecosystem, right? We're noticing that there's a handful of players that are trying to solve for this. So how can we expand on that arena, right? Because it's usually the things that make the headlines, which gives the whole industry a bad rep, right? So I think we're all very committed in terms of from a security standpoint and a risk management standpoint, how can we continue to build these tools, and how can we continue to get them into the hands of the right consumers and the right regulators and teams to properly secure the infrastructure that we're building and innovate upon that. Personally, I truly believe this is probably going to be the only way that that the non-believers will start believing that this is a safe place. Because right now, even myself, that I've been in the space for 7 years, I didn't know what to trust or what not to trust, and I took it upon myself to become a little bit more technical to understand the nuances of hey, if I'm entering this ecosystem, what's part of the smart contract, or trying to understand the technical capabilities, because today we're just following the herd into signing transactions with a new website that was just launched because they have cool looking NFTs or whatever it might be, and then we all get robbed, right? And so how can we prevent that from happening time and time and time again, especially during bull cycles, which right, right now we're in the bear market, right? If history continues to repeat itself, then we'll be in a bull market very, very, very soon. How can we have this be the bull market where we don't have such a big rug that happens to our space?
Right. I mean, I'm imagining, you're talking about, organizations of a certain size, and it taking them, a week to find out something went wrong and a month to be able to. I'm just imagining in a bull market that at scale has got to be completely unmanageable. I mean, in the current environment, without somebody actively creating process solutions and communicating that out, at least to the viable players.
Right. And what we noticed last bull market or bull run, just auditing your smart contract was the thumbs up of yep, we're good to go, we're safe. Right. And we're noticing hacking events are getting a lot more complex. It's just an audit is not enough, right? You need tools in place. You need, screening to be in place, right? You just need a lot more protocols and workflows in place to make sure that an audit isn't your only line of defense, right?
Right.
That's what it seems like and feels like even me talking to different partners or clients, now we're there's starting to be an uptick of the industry understanding what else can I do besides an audit? Can I do a second audit from a different third party? So on and so forth. So that's what we're hoping, that we can establish that reputation in the space, so that this next bull run, there's a lot more security in place.
I like it. So yeah, I mean, a lot of folks thought that, I have an audit, that's enough. But really, that's one aspect of getting you to the starting line. By no means will get you to the finish line.
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha. Cool, man. Well, yeah, you've definitely answered all of my technical questions. Tell me what you're not doing when you're at your desk.
Trying different foods. That's sort of like something that I enjoy doing, trying different cultures, experiencing different foods, trying to get sort of a more cultured taste bud, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm a cigar smoker. Palate is everything. My wife's a foodie. She calls herself a wino. She's a wine drinker, but she has an extraordinary palate. I was fortunate enough as a kid to go to a private school, grade school, and every month we had a feast day, and we would bring dishes and elements of culture from different places in the world and different times in the world. And that was great, especially when you're a kid. How much fun pretending is, right? So you get to do all that with your friends. Come in full costume. That was a lot of fun. It's not something I could do at this age unless I went full LARPer. But tell me what you're doing as somewhere like in between. Are you traveling to try new foods, or going to new neighborhoods, or what's the story?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm usually based out of LA, California.
Mm-hmm.
Currently in Mexico City, right? So this month
gotcha.
it's been a travel month. Trying different cuisines. If I'm not mistaken, I think the chef of the year was a Mexican female, and I actually had the opportunity to go to like 3 or 4 different restaurants that she has here. I think she owns like a group of restaurants. She has like bakeries, modern like Mexican cuisine, coffee shops. I've just been going there and trying a bunch of different pastries, and it's been amazing.
I don't know if you've had the same experience, but in another life, I was a DJ, and I got to go DJ in Mexico, and I had a host there who was dynamite. And every time we stopped, it didn't matter where we stopped for tacos or for whatever. Every single place we stopped, it was always, these are the best tacos in all of Mexico. I think it's just like a cultural way to like prepare your mind and stomach for a really great experience. Because we had tacos 6 times and never at the same place, and every single time they were the best in all of Mexico. Have you run into this?
I've definitely had amazing tacos here, but I've also been a little bit like cautious about where I'm eating.
Fair.
I did get food poisoning the first week that I arrived here, so ever since then I've been a little bit more cautious.
Yeah, that's wise. So what's your favorite you've tried so far while you're there?
Definitely recommend Rosetta. So that's sort of like the restaurant group. I think that's the restaurant group name, or if not the restaurant and the bakery. That's been the best thing here. I had kale tacos, and they're like completely like vegan tacos. And they were just amazing. Like I would never even imagine of like as like kale as the base and like sauce and other greens to be as incredibly good as it was.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to take your word for
that. Yeah, like I always go for something with meat, but I just had to try these tacos, and like they completely changed my perspective on like vegan, vegetarian, or like meat based products. It's just extremely delicious. I definitely recommend it.
Awesome. Okay, noted. Back to the team a little bit, but outside of just everybody's commitment and capabilities, how do you guys bond? What do you appreciate most about each other? Personally.
Yeah, so we're a remote first company. So we have different colleagues working from across the U.S. and abroad, right? And we've I feel like we've cracked the code of like how to like work extremely efficiently, even though that there's like no sort of like, you know, office environment, right? That has been sort of like a really great part of like our work culture in terms of, you know, if I need something from a team member, you know, just being like a huddle away, and everyone surprisingly always seems to be online. Like whenever like I need something like immediately, so that's probably been sort of like the great thing about our work experience.
Okay. We do have one question here, and I want to make sure that I'm getting it. Okay, so I guess this is directed at Gary, and it does look like we're going to hold this to just a Gauss focused AMA. So forgive me for reading aloud from the teleprompter when these are private notes. I will ask anybody in the audience, if you have a question for Christian, go ahead and use this time to add it to the AMA QA. And we'll, oh, really? Gary's muted now by this platform? Oh, goodness. The Discord effect is in full swing. Christian, I really have to thank you for joining us today, for dealing with all of these technical challenges. I'm sure, you face enough challenges in your day. The last thing you need is more here, but I appreciate your patience and your presence. So it looks like, we've gone through any questions that the audience would have, if there are any. Yeah, I think we're just dealing with technical stuff in this chat now. Christian, do you have any questions for us or for the audience, or for, that you want to kind of turn the tables and take a moment to share?
I guess the only question would be just any update on like the roadmap or any new sort of like, builder within the ecosystem that sort of like we should be like looking forward to.
Sure. And I'm not sure Gary caught the whole question, but so the question is, are there builders, or so where are we at on the roadmap? Are there builders in the ecosystem that we should be looking forward to? I know that we are gearing up to make some pretty big announcements soon, and we're just coordinating the timing on those, and I'll defer to Gary if there's anything that we can actually leak right now.
Well, let's see. Can you hear me first off?
Yes, we can, Gary.
Apparently, there's been a couple different times I was going to ask Christian a question earlier, and I was like, well, I guess Mac's just on this train. So apparently you guys just couldn't hear me, but part of our audience could, so that's awesome.
Oh, that's hysterical. This recording should be a lot of fun.
I'm looking forward to those parts because it was a couple different times. Anyway, to answer your question, Christian, there are some that we're really looking forward to. We're actually announcing one today in about 3 hours. And we have some other cool announcements. We have a lot of stuff in the pipeline. We don't, until something's inked and signed and ready to announce, we usually don't talk about it publicly. So there's not a ton of details I can give in this, but I know you and I wanted to have a call to catch up and stuff soon, so I can tell you all about it offline.
Amazing. Well, definitely looking forward to reading more about it and hearing it from you afterwards.
Yeah. Oh, all and right. I thought you really couldn't hear me again, and then you punked.
Goodness, that's the last thing we need. Well, at least our community has a sense of humor, if nothing else.
I mean, you have to with stuff like this.
You absolutely do.
What's going to end up happening, since I manually added those again, here in like 2 minutes, Christian's going to get rugged again.
I'm going to close this out because I've had it. I'm done with Discord for the day. That's just the deal. But really, thank you so much for being here, Christian. It's great to get a chance to have like a one-on-one, real-time conversation with you. I've been looking forward to this, and I think this came out very well.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate everyone for having me, and glad to be here.
Cool. Shameless
Thanks,
plug for
man.
next week. Before we wrap, we have Anthony Lopez from Pantheon coming back to join us, and we'll be talking about their QA process and how that's benefited Gauss and our potential partnership in the future. Thanks, gang.
Thanks.
Gauss is your favorite trusted platform for creators and brands. Appreciate it.